So we're gonna start with a shortbread base. It's a really rich cookie, so you can cut it into bite-sized pieces and people are totally satisfied. So first I'm going to start with, I have flour and salt. And you can do all of this in your food processor. And I have light brown sugar. And the reason why I have a pretzel in here, if you ever have problems with your brown sugar getting super hard in your cupboard after you open up the box, stick a little piece of bread or like a cracker in the brown sugar and it will absorb a lot of the moisture that makes it super hard. So I'm just going to stick both of those in the food processor and just pulse them so that everything combines. And then what I have here is unsalted butter. And you want to cube it and put it back in the refrigerator so it's super chilled before you start to make your crust. And then just slowly add these pieces. And I have my oven preheated at 350 degrees. If you have a convection oven at your house, drop the temperature by about 25 degrees, and that's the conversion for conventional versus convection oven. A convection oven, it has a fan that moves the heat around, so everything gets cooked more evenly. It's great if you have it in your house, but if you have the option, yes. And like I said, if it's usually a 25-degree difference, so just drop your convection oven down. Time is generally the same. And what I did to prep my pan is, this is a super, super buttery dough. So what you want to do is coat your pan, this is an 8x8 baking pan with butter, and then use a piece of parchment paper. And what I did is I cut them in long strips and I crisscrossed them because after the cookie bakes, you want to have something to grab onto to lift the cookie back out of the pan. So you put one piece this way, you butter it again, put the other piece crisscrosswise and butter that again. And that's how you prep your pan for this recipe. So this is practically done, and you just want to make sure the butter is in pea-sized pieces. And it's going to be really crumbly. So when you take it out, you're just going to transfer it into your prepared pan. And then just even out the crumbly dough. And what you're going to do is you're going to pat it into a crust. And then, as we all know, peach Melba is raspberry and peach. And if you have raspberry preserves that you'd made throughout the season, definitely use those because it's awesome. And this is a great season for raspberries. So next I'm going to spread my preserves over the crust. And I love a lot of preserves. You can tailor this to your liking. And just make sure it's evenly coated. And then after you've coated with your preserves, what you want to do is, we have one peach that's super thinly sliced. And I'm going to use half of the peach to layer. And you want to make sure you're using a ripe peach, but it's slightly firm, because if it's too juicy, what it will do is it will leach all of its juices and make the crust a little bit soggy. And then next, we are going to make our crumble topping. So just empty out your food processor. You don't need to clean it because the topping is a lot of the same ingredients. And what we have is flour, salt, and a little bit of nutmeg. I like to add some sort of flavor into the topping. You can also do cinnamon if you don't like nutmeg. Brown sugar. And again, like we did with the crust, what we're going to do is first pulse the dry ingredients. and make sure everything's well combined before we add our fat. And then we'll turn on the mixer, and we have about 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter here that again we cubed and chilled, and we'll just slowly add the butter. And then again, this is going to be really crumbly, but once it comes together and you can see that the fat is in about pea-sized pieces, then you know that you're good. So I'm going to add most of the crumble topping right now, but we still have another half of a peach, so we're going to top it with peaches so that you can see the beautiful peaches through the crumble topping. And sometimes I kind of grab the topping in my hand and scrunch it so that you get big, chunky pieces of topping.
Is that all from one peach?
That is from one peach. All right. And then all I do is I kind of nestle the second half of the peach in the topping. And I just, for presentation, I like to be able to see what's inside of the cookie bar. And what this will do as it bakes is some of the peach juices will leach a little bit, but since there's so much flour in the topping, it will thicken the peach juices, and you'll almost get that, that sort of gooiness that you get in a cobbler. And then I'm just going to top with a little bit more, but make sure you don't completely cover the peaches because they're so beautiful. All right. And then we are going to stick these in the oven. Again, it's preheated at 350 degrees. It goes for about 30 minutes. And the hardest part of this recipe is to let it cool completely because you want everything to set. And if you try to cut into it right away, it'll completely fall apart. So once that is completely baked and set, then all you have to do is you lift with the parchment paper out of the pan. And this is a great tip for any sort of bar cookie recipe, brownies, blondies, whatever you have. So just lift it out and slice it, and there you go. And now we have some samples.